And this is something that we can actually animate later on. That looks pretty good. I think we're going to stick with that for right now. And again, feel free to play with that all you want to. We'll save that. And now we're going to open up the lighthouse. Okay, so now our lighthouse scene. Let's start worrying about materials and textures on here. The first thing is that the lighthouse is all connected together. And probably the easiest way for us to do different material and textures on this thing would be to separate this into different objects. Plus it gives you another new thing to work with in Blender. So with the lighthouse selected, I'm going to go into edit mode. You can either hit tab on your keyboard or change it to edit mode here. Okay, so here's my lighthouse. I'm going to switch to wireframe. Sometimes I find it much easier to switch to wireframe to work on separating things out. You can stay in solid shading, but if you look at it, I can't see the vertices to the back, so I can only select vertices that are visible. That is because by default, we're set to occlude background geometry. They're now calling it limit selection to visible. They must have changed that because occlude background geometry was tough for some people to realize. So if I turn that off, you can now see through the entire shape. Okay, well again, I'm going to switch to wireframe, switch to a number 1, a front view, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit B to box, drag a window around the top of the lighthouse. Hit P to partition, select it, and now that is partitioned off as a separate object. I'm going to do B to box again, this time get my lighthouse walkway. P to partition, select it again. B to box, and now I'm going to get the main light area in here, those vertices. P to partition, select it. Go back over to object mode, and now you have 4 different parts to your lighthouse. Alright, let's start with the bottom part of the lighthouse. If I hit F12 to render a picture, it's just gray right now, and I'm going to make my lighting a little bit better. So I'm going to take this one single light, hit number 7, switch to a top view, Shift D to duplicate, give myself a second light, so now when I hit F12 it's better lit. Alright, now let's see. Go back to my lighthouse. Bottom part of my lighthouse. So just like we did for our other landscape scene, we're going to first add a material. And I can give it a name. I'm just going to call this stone because I'm going to make this look like some type of stone texture. Stone's not very glossy, so I'm going to take my specularity down. I'm not even going to bother to mess with the color in here. Okay, now I'm going to go straight over to textures, add a new texture, change my texture type from clouds to image, scroll down my list, find my image panel and open, and let's go in here to my textures library, brick stone, change it to thumbnails, and let's see, what would be a good stone for my... I'm going to just basically pick, let's pick this gray chiseled face. Open it up. If I hit F12 to try to render a picture, it's on there, but it's getting stretched down the sides. That's because by default, Blender wants to map your textures flat. What does that mean? If I look at my sample, go back over to my material panel and I look at my sample, there it is as a cube. The sample is mapping it on the top face and stretching it down the sides. So how do I fix that? Go back over to my texture panel. Where can I find that? So if I go in here, my image sampling and image mapping. Let's look at image mapping. And, that's not giving me in that one. It's actually in the mapping panel. Okay, so if I go to my mapping, projection from flat, your options are flat, cube, tube, sphere. Let's map it as a tube since this thing really is pretty much a tube shape. And what it's going to do is instead of stretching it down the sides, it's going to map it around in a circle. So now my stone is mapped around, but it's actually pretty small. So I'm going to do my X and Y repeat under image mapping. Let's do that a couple of times. Let's try 4 and 4, but I'm probably going to do something a little different here then. 4 and 4 is looking pretty good. Let's go with the X of about 5. Let's see what that now looks like. That's looking pretty good. You have to determine what's going to look good for the texture that you chose. Yeah, 6 looks pretty good. It's pretty flat. Alright, so let's go back in here. Let's go to my influence. Geometry, my normal setting. Okay. NO. Geometry, let's hit F12. And I don't know if you can see it in the tutorial, but now I've got more depth to my stone. It looks much nicer. Okay, I'm going to leave it the way it is right now. I'm going to now work on my other pieces of this lighthouse. So again, I pick my walkway, and for some reason it doesn't look like it's set smooth anymore. So let's go in here, and auto smooth is now turned off. So You know, I might have to, now that I separate it into its little pieces, I might have to hit auto smooth on all these pieces again. Okay, walkway. I'm not going to really put a stone on there. I'm just going to put a material on it. And again, you could name it. I'm just going to leave it like a gray the way it is. Let's say where my light is actually coming out, I'm just going to make that like something painted red. So I'm going to pick a red shade, a red color for that. Go with a red, change the intensity of it. More of a pink there now. Yeah, let's go this way. That looks pretty good. So we're going to go with that. Alright, so that gave me my red. Whoops, apparently it's had a little glitch there with my computer. Okay, let's go with a shade of red. That looks pretty good. And then for the roof, I'm actually going to put a texture on that. So I'm going to add a new material. Take specularity down. We don't want that very glossy. Go over to texture panel. And I have to scroll a little bit there to have it come up. Go to a new texture. Go to images. And let's see. Let's go down to open a new image. Go back to my library here. Brickstone. Nope, I want this in metal tech. I actually have a neat metal texture here that might work pretty well for that. It kind of looks like a tin plate, like cement chrome board. This is interesting. Let's go with that one. Now, if I hit F12 and I render a picture, it's not going to look quite the way I want it to look. Okay, it's kind of stretched out. So, I think I want to actually take that mapping, and I want to do a flat to, let's do it as a tube. Let's try that. And this time I think I just want to repeat in the X direction only. F12, render a picture. So now I'm repeating in the X and it's mapping it around as an angle. Let's go up about 7. Let's see what 7 looks like. 7 looks pretty good. See, if I do a Y, like a Y of 2, then I'm going to end up with an extra lap in the middle of it. It's going to repeat it twice. Maybe that's what you want. I don't think I want that for mine. That looks pretty good. Okay, and let's see. Next thing we could do with this, I don't think we really discussed it much in this chapter. This was really just materials and textures. But let's work ahead a little bit. And what I want to do is actually cut the holes for the actual lighthouse, since that's part of an editing command that we can do. Alright, so this time I am going to switch to a solid view. I'm going to go into edit mode. And this time, instead of selecting vertices, which is what I'm at by default, see how I can right click and select individual vertices? I can also do vertices, edges, or faces. And you only see this button when you're in edit mode. Let's go to face select. So now I can select the whole face. Because there are 32 rings and 32 segments to this, I'm going to delete every 3. So, and again, if I don't have occlude background geometry or limit it to visible, you can see through it, and you might accidentally get a back face instead of a front face. So we're going to keep it that we're limiting our selection. So if I hold down my shift key, I can right click on 3 faces. I let off the shift key, and now I spin it with my mouse wheel. Hold the shift key down again. I skipped 1, select 3 more. Spin it, hold down the shift key again, select 3 more, let go of the shift key, hold down the wheel, spin it, hold down the shift key, select 3 more, let go of the shift, hold down the mouse wheel, spin it, 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to keep doing that until I get all the way around. And there you go. I'm going to hit my delete key. I'm going to delete faces this time. And now I've actually created, back to object mode, I've now created some holes through my lighthouse. So when I hit F12 and render, there's what we now have. Okay, let's call this chapter finished.